Today, we are going to make some grass. No, I'm not in Colorado, so it's not going to be that kind of grass. It's our techniques that are so simple and sensible, your mothers have practically built themselves. Hello, folks. It's Mad Dog Merv, and today on Echoes from the Chalkboard, we are going to be looking at, well, it's one of the older schools in Salt Lake City. The building itself isn't, but again, the property, the school itself, the name of the school, well, it's been there for 130 years. So, yeah, it's been around for a while, and that is Washington Elementary School in Salt Lake City. So today we're going to just go through a brief pictorial history of some of it and tell a little story about it. It's going to be brief, but hopefully it's something you'll enjoy. So sit back and enjoy and stick with Mad Dog Merv as we look at Washington Elementary School in Salt Lake City.
I have found that school custodians have an unusual bond to the schools we are given charge of. It goes deeper than just the brick and mortar buildings we maintain. The kids, faculty, and even the neighborhood itself become a special part of us. Well, it's hard to believe it's been 15 years, but I remember vividly I was at the new Washington Elementary with my friend and colleague of, well, the past nearly 40 years, Ricardo Zubiote. We toured the building in advance of the grand opening. I could hear the excitement in his voice as he told stories of the days when he was the head custodian of Washington from 1985 to 1987. In the main stairway of the building is a large picture of the original Washington. That building sat on the north end of the current site. The property, originally a vineyard owned by a Captain Hooper, was purchased in 1892 for $13,500. The 15-room building was erected in less than a year. Captain Hooper's butler would later become a custodian at the school. In 1893-1894 school year, the average daily attendance was 662 pupils. Wow, in that 15-room building, holy smoke, that's a lot of kids. Mr. S.W. Walker, custodian of the old Washington School from 1909 to 1931, had hauled lime from the kilns in North Salt Lake to the site of the building during its construction. And keep in mind, those kilns that he's talking about, or we're talking about here, were built and belonged to my great-great-grandfather, Pasco. Man, it's funny how family history and Salt Lake history just ties in wherever I seem to go. One thing you'll notice is how much Washington looks just like the old Lowell building. Well, of course, they had the same architect, and very, very similar look to both schools. This is Lowell here. We did a piece on it just a couple of months ago. In the Sanborn map from, I believe, 1911, I think that's what this one is, you get a good view of the original building where it sat on the site. And Center Street, remember Center Street? We've talked about that before. That used to be the main street going out of the city to the north. And here's a good close-up of the footprint on the site. I was fortunate to find some of these pictures taken at the back side of the school, and you can see those walls, those retaining walls, and those staircases coming down to the playground area. Wow, what a magnificent looking building. Remember, you had a boys' entrance and a girls' entrance, two separate entrances. I believe the boys was on the west side, the girls was on the east side. Here's a very early picture of the back side of the building. Notice the difference with the smokestacks and where the flagpole is on top of the building versus the previous picture where it was down by the staircase, which is not in this picture here. Absolutely wonderful to have something this early taken of Washington. Unfortunately, the only interior picture I could find was this one, kind of in the main little foyer area. These buildings weren't very big, but man, the architecture was definitely beautiful. And you notice the hanging lights. This has got to be from the 1950s. Here we have a good picture of the library addition that was made just west of the school. I believe this was 1955. I could be wrong, but I believe that's when this particular addition to the building was built. Unfortunately, again, this is the only picture I have of this part of the building. In 1908, an annex building was built to help overcrowding. The original main building had been upgraded many times during its existence. One of the most important upgrades was the addition of electric lights in the early 1900s. Check out these different class pictures. Unfortunately, I don't have a year on any of these, but these were definitely some from the students of Washington. Pretty neat. Now we got this reverse negative, whatever you want to call it, picture in here. I don't know, but it is kind of cool looking, this particular view of the old school. And here we are. This has got to be, wow, look at the trees, how small they were. But you definitely had paved roads and curb and gutter. So I'm not sure the year on this one. By the 1970s, this building had reached its limits, and in 1977, a new main building was constructed on the southwest side of the property. And I think there's a couple of pictures I have, but this is the only one I had access to right now of them tearing down the old building. And you can actually see, wow, the construction of that thing. Amazing building. Now remember, that was the main building here that they tore down. The annex continued on for several more years in its use. And here is the building that was built in 1978 on the southwest side. And you can see the old main building was still there. They were going to tear it down, but you can see in the background it's still there. That's really a neat picture. This is the Washington that my friend Ricardo fondly remembers. Here he is in the custodian's office in that old building. And I think I had only been in that building maybe once or twice in my lifetime. He'll always be a part of that school's proud continuing 130-year legacy. And for some reason, this particular building was only up for a little less than 30 years. By 2006, it was deemed that they needed to replace it. Maybe because of soil samples, I'm not sure. Liquefaction factor, I'm not sure. But anyway, it was demolished, and they built the brand new Washington that sits there today. Absolutely beautiful building. Well, thank you folks for joining us on this brief history of the Washington School in Salt Lake City.